I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Today, really not excited to review this one. I gotta say, I'm just gonna come out and say it.
Okay.
I'm not excited to review it.
Should I shut the camera off? Are we done? No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
No, this is Joy Formidable's second album, Wolf's Law. In 2011, they came out with The Big Roar and caused a big roar. Everyone was talking about the Joy Formidable, and
Yeah.
I was like, really? When I got to it, I was like, really? Really? I don't remember.
I thought it was a good album, but it didn't like blow me away.
If I remember right, you liked it, and I was kind of about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was looking forward to see, you know, a lot of times when a band comes out, gets some hype, they present a really cool sound that kind of ignites a lot of attention, and rightfully so, right? The Joy Formidable have a really strong sound. Like, it's loud, almost arena-esque indie rock, if that makes any sense. They just beat the hell out of their instruments, yet it still sounds pretty melodic and kind of, you know, fun to listen to. And I was kind of curious to see what they were going to do with that.
Me too. So more than anything, the Big Roar gave me a reason to put them on my watch list.
Exactly.
I was looking forward to what they do next.
So Wolf's Law comes out. Really kind of anticipating, you know, the cover of this album has a wolf laying down, flowers coming out, it's dead, you know, the wolf's presumably dead, really dramatic. So you listen to it and you put on this album, and the first thing you hear, what's the first thing you hear? Strings! What? What? So I was intrigued, although, you know, strings, you know, from a synthesizer aren't really, you know, it's kind of cliche, right? You know, it's not really the most original thing. But then they kind of create these big songs that are just these giant anthems, just like they did on the first album. It's just slightly more polished. Now, Tom, what would you describe as the major difference between Wolf's Law and The Big Roar? Because I think, if I remember right, you like The Big Roar enough to, more so than the Wolf's Law.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some songwriting differences, but to me, I just really didn't like the production.
Right.
I gotta say, I just thought it was very weak. I don't know how else to put it. You know, the song opens with the strings. The first song on the album opens with the strings, as you said, and then once the actually rock part of it busts in, it just doesn't sound strong.
It just sounds like...
I actually thought the strings sounded stronger.
They do.
Than,
they do.
Yeah, and so the guitar is just kind of weak. Not much bass definition. I mean, I had a lot of similar complaints about Circus Survive's Violent Waves when we reviewed that. I actually think that this one might even be worse production-wise. Right. Now, keep in mind, guys, as I always say, production is not a one-size-fits-all thing. I don't think that this should have been produced like Metallica's last record was, and I don't think it should be produced like My Bloody Valentine. But it's all about finding the right sound to fit your songwriting. And when they're going for a ballsy, attitude-driven kind of guitar sound, I don't think this cuts it. No. I think the guitars are not very sharp. I think they're very mid-rangey and kind of washy. I don't feel like I get a lot of boom out of the bass, and I don't think the drums have a lot of punch. And it just makes for a very underwhelming rock sound.
I totally agree. And not only that, but I think when you couple that with the songwriting presentation, which is these guys have a formula down that they developed on The Big Roar and now are totally making use of here. These songs start off loud, and they're just these big, loud tracks with big climaxes, right? There's no way around that. And so what you have is you get into this formula and you have a few tracks that do that, and you're like, okay, this is okay, but then a whole album's worth of that, and you're sick of it. Yeah. And by the end of it, I mean, I have a really tough time. You know, I can make it through Silent Treatment. Silent Treatment's more of a...
I really like that song.
Yeah, and it's a really cool change-up for their song. But other than that one track, there's really not a lot of variety on this album. Hardly any at all. And then, right after that track, comes Mau Mau Song. Which is one of the most ridiculous songs I've heard in a long time.
It's rough.
It kind of reminds me of, you know, I know there's a lot of Black Sabbath fans out there. I like Black Sabbath, but Black Sabbath was very different than this. And it kind of has that Black Sabbath feel where the vocals, Ozzy's not the best vocalist, where the vocals are kind of just mimicking the guitar lines. And it's
like Iron Man syndrome. That's what I call it.
It's Iron Man syndrome, and it's just weak. And really, from there, I just don't feel like the songs ever come back to be as strong as the first half, and part of that's definitely due to just repetition, repetition, repetition. So, in that, I find that this album can be a little hard to choke down, and just one major problem after another, and one of them is just the lack of dynamics. This album is loud, the production doesn't help it at all, it doesn't give it any distinction between sounds, or any, you know, depth in the sound, because there is no dynamics, it's all being presented in fortissimo! Yeah. And it's just, Yeah.
And I even think The Big Roar was produced better than this.
I do too.
And I believe that they produced this one themselves. So maybe that's just kind of the downfall, is a lot of bands trying to do everything themselves, and it just doesn't turn out as good as you could. If you have that record deal, take advantage of it, right?
Absolutely,
I don't know.
absolutely.
I don't know exactly what's going on with the band.
You also got to keep in mind, how many other bands out there that are doing sounds like this, and the Joy Formidable, because of their female singer and her ability to just belt it out, have their own niche there. They have this unique opportunity to really make kick-ass albums, and I just feel like they're kind of squandering it.
Yeah.
Especially with all this attention on them. It's like you just make an album full of the same track and then hope that one of those tracks goes multi-platinum and makes you a ton of money. Like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, really? Come on, we got to be better than that.
Yeah, and it just didn't have the edge. It was just weak.
And
all
personally,
around
even the tracks that I liked on this album, none of them were as good as Whirring on.
Yeah,
on
that track is fantastic.
Yeah, and I just don't feel like you can classify any of these tracks as fantastic. 'Cause there's just some that are better than others.
That's very true.
And to me, this album just kind of was a big flop. I'm going 58 on it.
I'm gonna go 60.
Okay. You can like it a little bit more.
I like it a little bit more.
58 and 60, that's fine. We're still going to average out at a 59, which means this thing has a lot of problems, and we just don't feel like we can classify it in the good category, or good enough to recommend to you. If you guys liked this album, Wolf's Law, and like the Joy Formidable and their sound and a band as a band, that's totally awesome. Do not let two guys reviewing music, just giving you their opinions about what they hear, sway your bias at all. Because music is all about our own personal experience, and the fun that we have with it is entirely personal. We're just here to talk about it and to get us all thinking and talking about music, because this is how you get into new music. Let us know what you guys thought, and if you guys did really like this album, we'd love to hear your thoughts too. At www.velocitiesmusic.com and youtube.com/velocitiesmusic, and also please write on our Facebook wall and send us a tweet, because that's where we talk with you guys.
Yes.
I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we're VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
I'll wait up, watching time, you tumble